Fourth, now this is something about our topic of today's discussion, governance. Land readjustment, as I explain later on, can foster social learning for building local governance. This is a very important point, and I want to save that later on to elaborate for you. It is important that we don't take urban renewal or land readjustment as simply a tool to redevelop land or update land use. This is actually an opportunity for all of us to learn how to respect each other, how to work with each other to make urban redevelopment viable. Urban redevelopment does not have to be contentious, does not have to be costly. It can be, again, as I will emphasize in the talk, it could be a win-win scenario. Give congratulations to the Fenicia projects that they have done that very well. By organizing the community, mobilizing the community, people begin to know that they belong to the community. They are willing to sacrifice some inconvenience to allow the project, the whole neighborhood to be redeveloped. So, in other words, don't just focus on swapping land or how to financially exchange assets, but take the project as an opportunity to what? Enhance the standard of citizenship of the entire neighborhood. Okay? This is very important because in the future, when they know the responsibility and rights, they can solve other urban problems after the land readjustment project finished. This is actually, to me, is the most important and noble goal of doing land readjustment and urban renewal.
Y esa es una de las grandes diferencias de la universidad como promotora a que otro tipo de promotor esté en este esquema. Y es que aquí hay una decisión y una inversión y una infraestructura de quedarse en la zona. Y ese quedarse en la zona implica una responsabilidad muy diferente a un promotor tradicional que va a desarrollar un proyecto y se va para otra zona de la ciudad. Entonces,
sí, en cambio, y yo creo que ese rol lo tiene en Fenicia, creo que hoy se ha llegado a eso en Fenicia, es formando parte, bien sea de manera contractual o aportando servicios propiamente dicha, para hacer que desde lo público se produzcan los efectos y los aspectos que deben realizarse para garantizar que ese proyecto que puede ser privado no va a tener un obstáculo en lo público.
El centro de Bogotá tiene, cuando uno hace como el recorrido, el centro de Bogotá es emocionante, genera hasta miedo, es vertiginoso, es aterrador a veces, pero es emocionante y es un conjunto de oportunidades brillantes para hacer proyectos inmobiliarios y beneficiar a las comunidades. Entonces, uno en este centro de Bogotá tiene que articular al público, al privado y a todos los actores de la cadena, pero de fondo lo que yo veo valioso de este centro y lo que garantiza el éxito de Fenicia es que uno en qué pieza urbana, en qué lote en Bogotá como desarrollador o como Camacol, uno tiene 19 universidades, 10 bibliotecas, 35 iglesias, 24.000 árboles, 9 quebradas. O sea, este es un territorio fabuloso que está lleno de oportunidades, complejo, heterogéneo, pero Fenicia es una pieza clave para articular un desarrollo inmobiliario bajo el concepto de la triple cuenta, y es la habilidad de Germán, de todo el equipo, de los profesionales que estamos contribuyendo, y lo digo por Camacol, a articular una visión grande de ciudad, estas 8 o 9 hectáreas, para beneficio de todos.
el refuerzo escolar, que es algo que ha integrado mucho la sociedad, la comunidad de lo que forma el Triángulo de Fenicia. Han también llevado a cabo actividades relacionadas con las personas de la tercera edad, de jóvenes, a través de cursos, tratando de que ellos tengan una visión hacia futuro, cómo puede ser su vida cuando ya este sueño se haga una realidad. Para mí eso es muy importante y es una forma de integrar a la sociedad. ¿Qué falta?
Y entonces pues muchos actores no nos veían como personas positivas dentro de esta construcción, sino como destructivas de que estábamos en contra del proyecto. No, nosotros lo que queríamos era una inclusión social, un respeto a los derechos humanos y la resolución de los conflictos a través del diálogo. Por otro lado, vemos que ya nos podemos sentar, nos saludamos ya con cariño, con aprecio, con respeto. Anteriormente era un poco complicado porque, vuelvo y repito, los veíamos como intrusos. De tal manera que el avance, la confianza que se ha ganado a través de este proceso ha sido grande. Confianza que no genera el Estado, confianza que no generan las instituciones.
Y si usted no simplifica el lenguaje, pues va a ser muy difícil generar diálogo, ¿sí? Y sin diálogo, creo que estos procesos no pueden pasar.
Algo importante para el proyecto sería un componente social que consiste en programas de capacitación para toda la comunidad, en los cuales nos puedan orientar los cambios que se van a originar en el proyecto. Hay personas que, como lo mencionaban anteriormente, que viven, que son, digámoslo así, suena feo la palabra, están invadiendo un espacio. Son personas que nunca han estado acostumbradas a pagar, por decir, el agua. Entonces, son personas a las cuales se debe preparar cómo deben organizar su dinero para enfrentarse a lo que es vivir en un apartamento, a las responsabilidades que requiere pagar una administración, servicios públicos, qué sé yo, muchas cosas que van a afectar su economía. Entonces sería importante tener programas en finanzas, en microempresas, para pasar de la informalidad a la formalidad, para de esta manera hacer personas con futuros prometedores y no que a 5 años o 10 años, cuando ya hayan terminado el proyecto y ya estemos en nuestros apartamentos, estas personas tengan que desplazarse, porque eso no es la intención, es quedarnos, como siempre ha reafirmado la doctora Doris Patricia.
Y es que el Estado debe ser el garante y debe ser o representar a los intereses de la comunidad y a la vez ofrecer el blindaje que necesita el proyecto para que los compromisos se cumplan.
after the land readjustment project finished. This is actually, to me, is the most important and noble goal of doing land readjustment and urban renewal. It's part of the problem of advocating urban renewal in the past. I will flow into a neighborhood, draw up the plan, do the financial planning, and then left town. The rest, I don't know. How would I do benefit to the neighborhood? No long-term benefit. I may see some physical improvement of the neighborhood, but after several years, there are new urban problems emerge. And the neighborhoods or the neighbors will not have the capacity to handle that problem because we didn't do any capacity building through those old projects. Now, land readjustment is a new approach. Land readjustment needs to emphasize on building local capacity to solve those problems themselves by the community, not by just experts like me. Okay? Now, second is that this is a similar point. You can do that, then you are building governance. As Professor Oscar Prado mentioned, governance is the key point. Okay? How you can build a community, can work together, can live harmoniously, respect differences, is about this. Land readjustment is a way to help us to learn to do that. They don't come naturally, not by lecture, not by politician speech and what have you. You have to get the hand dirty, work on an actual project, and they will see how working together will require efforts and patience and trust. And this is how you build local governance. Now, last but not least, when you have all this experience generated, don't just simply let it fly away. You have to what? Now he's happy. To institutionalize those practices into law so that people can follow that law to make land readjustment to be implemented more rapidly in the future. Now, last word, it may take all of you 8 years this time to mobilize the community. But if the Fenicia project is successful, and I'm sure it will, next project will be 5 years because you have experience. You will be incorporated in the law of how you mobilize the community. Next one will be 2 years. Next one will be 1 year. Next one will be 6 months. How about that? So the complete of land readjustment is too long, can be what? Gradually reduced. Okay? And on that, I will stop my presentation. Muchas gracias. I apologize for not allowing time for question and answer. Maybe we can do that later on this afternoon when we have time to sort of discuss different aspects of urban renewal. Okay?
El profesor Hong había solicitado que pudiéramos hacer unas preguntas en este momento, al final de su presentación, y no esperar hasta el momento de las preguntas al mediodía. Estamos un poco corto de tiempo, pero quisiéramos darle la oportunidad a 2 o 3 preguntas, 2 or 3 questions from. Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. It's important to ask questions that can have mutual learning. It's not, you don't want to just hear from me. I want to hear from you.
Entonces, pues vamos a tomar un poco de tiempo del café que está ya listo afuera. Y pues como tenemos la siguiente participación a las 10:10, pues vamos a dar un espacio para 2 o 3 preguntas o personas que quieran hacer alguna pregunta al profesor Hong. Martín, ¿quieres pasar acá para el micrófono?
Okay, good.
Dr. Hong, muchas gracias por venir. Would you rather for me to ask in English or in Spanish?
They have quick
Español.
translation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Entonces, Usted mencionó que en algunos casos la participación y comunidades que son demasiado homogéneas pueden llevar a que no se repartan los beneficios equitativamente porque hay, pues no sé, como algunas diferencias que no se solucionan solamente con la participación comunitaria. ¿Podría ilustrar un poco más y de pronto dar algunos casos de por qué ocurre esto y en qué ocasiones ha ocurrido esto?
Right.
Sí.
Yes. Yeah. Because let me illustrate that using an actual case that is in China. The case that I present, the Leder village in Guangdong. In fact, the whole neighborhood is occupied by a family with a single surname. Okay, so they are the majority land holder of the neighborhood. Now, because of that, some other people, some renters, some other landholder, they are not belong to their surname, are being excluded. Okay, so they are not giving the equal amount of voices to present their concern during the land readjustment project. Now, let me give you another example. I worked in Iraq. For informal settlement upgrading in Iraq several years ago, and as you know, the Iraqis tend to be, how to say it, have this idea of gender bias. Okay, when you go to public meeting, it's all man, old man. Okay, so how about the women and the young people? They don't have the opportunities to voice the concern about how to redevelop the neighborhood. So what we have to do is to set up special focus group meeting to separate the men and women into two groups. Indeed, in Iraq, it's culturally inappropriate to mix men and women together in one meeting. Okay? If you do that, the women will be sitting at the back, playing with the thumb and saying nothing at all. So what I'm saying is that you have, when you talk about local context and talking about the homogeneity of the communities for organizing land readjustment, it is great. If indeed the perspective of the community is very coherent and homogeneous, it's easy to organize them. But at the same time, the risk is that you oversee other perspectives from the minority members of the communities. That may make your project not accommodating the interests. That's the dangerous. Okay, so what I'm saying is that don't worry about a neighborhood that have very diverse interests, very conflicting interests. In fact, those are the neighborhood that you want to go in and try to work on it. If indeed social learning is the objective of your project, you help them to learn how to respect different opinion, different perspective, different demand, different lifestyle.
Buenos días. Me gustaría preguntar sobre el mito número 3. Es acerca de las fallas de mercado que presentan los precios de la tierra. Y me gustaría saber tu opinión sobre los límites que impone el gobierno o que puede imponer sobre los precios de la tierra. Un price cap. ¿Realmente resuelven el problema del reajuste de tierras en cuanto a que puedan ser acelerados por el gobierno?
Right. No, this is a very good question. To be honest, in the project that we work on, we tend not to favor the idea of government restriction on land prices or property prices. That will make the project very challenging, right? Because if the land value increment can go so far and stop there, then not that I want to give developer more profit, is that the social function of the project could be at risk because there will not be enough increment to be relocated for social housing, to be relocated for land space for public facilities. Okay, so the government should be smart enough to say that, okay, if indeed there is a restriction on land prices, let's lift the restriction and let the increment increase as the market dictate. That would be good for them too, because there will be enough land value increments for financing. It's very important, right? Because the facilities can either come from a project, or the government have to finance those construction themselves. Right? So land restriction or land value restriction, generally speaking, not always. Generally speaking, but not always, would create challenges for the project.
¿Alguien más? ¿Sebastián? Vamos allá y luego
Buenos días. Me gustaría oír sus opiniones o pensamientos y, si es el caso, recomendaciones. Usualmente cuando se trabajan en sitios que requieren renovación urbana, o es posible que cuando uno hace proyectos de renovación urbana se encuentre con zonas de la ciudad que se han desarrollado informalmente. Cuando uno pretende formalizar la ciudad y pretender adecuarlo a los usos que se creería que la ciudad necesita, se puede incurrir en no sé si decir equivocación, de buscar formalizar a una comunidad que se ha creado en la informalidad. Entonces, al pretender vincular a esa comunidad, uno puede o desnaturalizar la renovación urbana o generar un proyecto que, si bien se hace todo lo posible por vincular a la comunidad, en el desarrollo de ese proyecto puede que no haya espacio. Bueno, es una preocupación, me gustaría oír sus pensamientos al respecto.
Again, this is another very good question. More questions are welcome. It's a very great question. This is how we can learn from each other. Now, using land readjustment to regularize or formalize informal settlements, so far, as I can observe, is more challenging. There are many issues involved, as you pointed out, if I understand correctly, is what are the implications of legalized informal settlements, right? In terms of whether it will encourage more informal settlements, right, to emerge in the futures and what have you. Now, so my sort of humble suggestions, again, have to be based on context, is that if the social goal of the city that agreed upon by all stakeholders is to protect the minimal livelihood of the urban poor, then I would support the idea of formalizing informal settlement using land readjustment. Now, that depends on certain conditions. One is the neighborhood has been there for a long time. It's not a neighborhood that suddenly see the opportunities of grabbing land and then build overnight, become a neighborhood to capitalize on this favorable policy towards informal settlements, right? We saw a lot of those situations in developing country. We call these people the professional squatters. Right? They know that the city will revitalize or formalize a neighborhood. They immediately, within a month or so, suddenly there's the informal settlement emerged from some area of the city. Now, so you have to set up the guideline. One is that there is a deadline. This is a benchmark saying that if the neighborhood has been exist in the city for, let's say, 15 or 10 years, then I think that just to simply force or relocate the entire neighborhood might be a little bit too brutal. because people living there might have contributed economically and socially to the development of the cities. Those are the labor that businesses or former residents may need to make their businesses or livelihood workable. Right? So I don't normally think that squatters or informal settlers have no contribution to the society. They're simply relying on taking advantage of society. So what I'm saying is that if you have neighborhood that meet the criteria, that they have been there for a long time, they contribute to the city, so my recommendation or suggestions will incline to help them to stay. Am I answering your questions? Yes. Yeah.
Sí, pero de pronto para ser más puntual, entiendo el tema de legalizar, entiendo el tema de hacer a la comunidad parte del proyecto, me parece que eso es parte de lo que uno debería hacer. Mi preocupación es que una sociedad informal se adecue a un proyecto formal a largo plazo y finalmente la comunidad se desbarate. No sé si esa es la palabra, pero se desintegre. Es un tema más social que económico y jurídico.
Understand now. Thank you for clarifying your question. Indeed, once you formalize or legalize property right for informal settlers, they may turn around and sell, right, their property to developers and make a lot of money. Now, this happened in Bangkok, in Thailand. One way to do it is to allow the community to form a housing co-op. Now, how it works? Within the Sorry, technical.
Thank you, sir.
To form a housing co-op, the scheme is as follows. All members of the community will be the members of the co-op. When they get the land, they don't become private landowner immediately. They have to rent or lease the land for 5 years. Okay? If they're interested in turning into freehold landowners, they have to pay a little bit for the land. Now, so these mechanism requirements will slow down the situation that you raised, is that informal settlers, after they being legalized, will immediately turn around and sell the property. They have to wait for 5 years to show that they indeed want to commit to the community before they can sell. Now, of course, you can't say that you cannot sell forever, then they will undermine the incentives of the landholders to participate in the project. So some sort of a rent and buy arrangement need to be established to make sure that they don't, again, being opportunistic about the renewal policy of formalizing informal settlements that formulated by the government.